rehearsal is like with George. We'll work on a scene, and then as we're working through and talking about a scene, George starts spouting all of this information, and you see the cast just leaning forward and like trying to type it out and just trying to remember it. It's just this incredible wisdom that he has. Look,
can I just show you? This is like, I mean, I wrote 7 pages of notes while I was with
just things that George might
just
have said.
Things, I mean, even when he was out of the room, I was like, I got to take notes for George.
Yeah.
Just in case something happens while he's gone.
It's such an education we're getting. It's not just, you know, he's not just our director and the writer of this incredible piece, but, you know, I'm learning about myself and my history, our history, and just how it all connects in the world on a daily basis. I mean, so it's, and they're paying me, so.
The full title of what you're doing is It's Shuffle Along, or the Making of the Musical Sensation of 1921 and all that followed. And
all that follows is on the back of the t-shirt.
Yeah. You are taking the show and then in a sense trying to capture the phenomenon of the show itself. I mean, because not only was it the 504 performances, it was happening at this time where Harlem culture and black culture in New York was the epicenter of American culture. Mm-hmm. I mean, this was the thing to do, and it had high and low, but it also had the sensation around the show was its blackness in a lot of ways. Mm-hmm. Why add this sort of meta commentary element to the show?
Because I think it's intrinsic in the material. Because one of the things that's interesting is that Shuffle Along it's to me what's fascinating. It was also an interesting time period because sort of I call it uptown and downtown were getting to know each other. Mm-hmm. And the show ended up at a theater on 63rd Street, which doesn't exist anymore. And it's sort of like, all of a sudden different worlds were meeting on that stage, backstage, and there was this connection, and some people credit it with creating this energy inside of downtown so that the whole phenomenon of slumming and going to Harlem is considered that Shuffle Along was a catalyst of this. And I think that anytime you put, and it was interesting enough, and then I read some cultural critic was speaking as that because of Shuffle Along and its extraordinary success, and it was the most successful black musical at the time, it put into motion a model that we're still dealing with to this very day. Mm. And just in the sense that Noble Sissle and Eubie Blake were very urban composers, but the show is set in the South in a place called Jimtown, and that sort of that tension between Northern and Southern, I think, is very much so interesting, and I think it frequently plays itself out in various musicals that have happened, Porgy and Bess, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it just seems to me that therefore it's this seed from which a whole lot of other things sprang forth.
We should also say that Savion Glover is doing the choreography for the show, and this is a very sort of tap-focused show.
My feet hurt.
Yes. And
this is a tap demon now.
Yes.
It's amazing, you know, first of all, when you work with Savion, he doesn't, if you say flap, or like if you say, you know, like a ball change or something like that, he's like, just,
oh.
And then he does that, and then he says, okay, you, and then he goes, no, you. And you're watching it, and you're watching his, and you know his feet are moving, but you don't even know how they are moving. They're making the sounds that they're making, even though you're right there. So it's like, I'm this close to your feet, and you've done 15 sounds in 2 seconds, and I don't know how you've done it.
Right, right.
And even though I'm right here, and then you say to me, okay, now you go.
I don't know how rehearsals are supposed to go. I was talking to you about this earlier. Do you bring 45%? Like 60%? And I don't know what percentage you were at, but I was like, oh, you just go in with like a low bat, like low B-A-T-T. Just, you know, you got enough to get through the next 2 hours, but you don't have to give everything. You don't want to waste anything. Mm-hmm. Holy shit. She was at like 110 to me. That could have been your 50.
Well, that's because of him. George is someone who, I mean, aside from the fact that this entire show and the idea of the show has, sort of sprung forth from his brain like, Athena from Zeus, fully formed, and he's trying to spew it all out to us as quickly as it's coming to him, which is, we've all had to learn how to speak George because the information is coming so quickly. He's like, but wait a minute, what do you need to do that? And everybody now, because we've been workshopping it for a while, now we go, oh, okay, he wants us to do this. But in the first couple of weeks, you're like, I don't know what you said. But George is giving 190,000% of every cell of his body at every moment in rehearsal. So shame on you for not doing the same. And not that he ever has to say that, but it's, have you had to say that to me?
What?
I don't know yet. But he doesn't, you can't not bring everything that you have, even though it may not all be correct or fully formed or perfect. You have to bring that same level of commitment and energy to what you're trying to achieve, because George is meeting you with that, and his presence and all that energy and intelligence and passion and inspiration demands that you come back with that much. So that's why. I mean,
Thank you. But also, this woman is like, this woman is like, she's like this ferret for truth. She's just like, she's going like this, and she goes, that's kind of truth. That's kind of truth. No, that's truth. And she's just, I think it's a room full of obsessive, compulsive, overachieving black people.
Yes.
It's just like,
we're in this moment where these things are really touchy and sensitive about appropriation and ownership. And at the time, in the 20s, it was open. Blackness was sort of an open source situation.
but there was I think.
And I'm not saying it was better.
No, but I think what was happening with Shuffle Along too, there was a reclaiming.
Yeah.
Too, in a way, I mean, there was there was, all the minstrelsy that was going on, and there was, there were Caucasian people, Elle Jolson and the whatnot, sort of, going around. But with Shuffle Along, they were able. I think there was reclamation. Is that a word?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think I also think
that's
think
what it was.
Once you put something out there, it's out there. And there are recordings of Ethel Waters singing a song, You're Lucky to Me, and the sections of it where she begins, ever since a child was I reconciled. And then she goes, folks who caught up their boogaboos. And she's like culturally all over the map in one phrase. And I think there was this, it's very interesting because there was a moment that, I can't believe I just sang in public, but I digress. A moment of, okay. On stage with Audra McDonald, I have no fear. Okay, let's go. And I sang in a fake soprano voice too, really embarrassing. And they're streaming it. I'm so happy. But it's, but it was just, it's like, I want some of that, and I want some of that, and I want some of that. I think it would be fun to see how my voice sounds like this. And Eubie was obsessed with Broadway composers, and at the same time, he was a rag composer. At the same time, he was a jazz composer. So it's complicated because American culture, at its best and most interesting, is a mess.
Yeah,
it's a mess. Yeah. It's a screwed up, complicated, horrifying, exhilarating mess. So when you try to extract it and reach for purity, when the fundamental dynamic of it is, Taylor Swiftian, Kanye Weston, who gives a crap, it's all in there, how can you extract it?